What is up, everyone? Today we're going to be talking about the basic operators in Python. So we'll start off with arithmetic operators, and these are very basic. You've probably seen them in your basic math class. So to start off, addition, right? You just use a plus sign. So 5 plus 5 is actually 10, and that's what we're printing out here. So 10, and then subtraction, 10 minus 5 is actually 5, and that's what we're getting here. Multiplication, you actually use a star or asterisk. You don't actually use a x. So 2 times 5 is actually 10. And then division, right? So the thing about division is this is an int, right? And this is also an int. So 11 divided by 5 is actually what? It's actually 2.2. 2.2 is actually not an integer, it's a float. So when you do this type of division, what Python does is actually says, okay, I'm actually gonna convert the result from an int to a float. So 11 divided by 5 is gonna give you 2.2. When we check its actual type, right? It's a float, it's not an int. Now you might say, well, what if I actually want to keep it an int and I actually want to get an int, right, as a result? Well, that's when you can use floor division. So we'd use 2 slashes basically and do 11 divided by 5, and basically the result is 2.2, right? But basically it's floored. So what floor does is basically it rounds down to the nearest integer. So 2.2 actually rounds down to 2. And so the type is actually still an integer. Modulus division is basically you divide then the two numbers and then you get the remainder. So 11 divided by 5, right? How many 5s are there in 11? There's 2, right? Because 2 times 5 is 10, and then so what's left over? 1, right? So this would actually give you 1 because that's the remainder. Now, to do exponential calculations, let's say 10 to the power of 2, you have to use 2 stars or 2 asterisks. So 10 to the power of 2 is 10 times 10, which is 100, and as you can see here, that's what we get. So comparison operators are also very simple. You've probably seen these before. And so the difference between double equal sign, just one equal sign, basically double is basically checking if the thing on the left side and the thing on the right side are actually the same, whereas this is called an assignment equal sign. So basically it's assigning whatever's on the right side to the left side, right? So this is actually going to be true because 5 is equal to 5. So the value is actually going to be true, and that's what we're going to print. So that's what we get here. So same thing here. 5 is not equal to 6. Well, that's actually true because 5 is not equal to 6. So then this truth value is actually assigned to x, and then you print that value, which is true. So less than, again, same thing, 5 is less than 6, well that's true. So x is actually assigned the value true, and that's what we get here. Now 6 is greater than 5, so that's true, and that's what we get here, and that's what it's assigned. Now less than or equal to, same thing. You put a less than, and then you put an equal to, and this is basically saying, is the number on the left side less than or equal to the number on the right side? And 5 is less than or equal to 5, so we get true. And same thing here, 6 is greater than or equal to 5, and then we get true. So the things that we went over right now are pretty basic if you've done basic math before. So now let's look at assignment operators. So let's say you have a starting value of x that's actually 10, right? And you say, well, I actually want to add 5 to the current value of x, and I want to set that value to x, right? So you can easily do x is equal to x plus 5. So basically what you're saying is saying, basically the value of x currently, I want to add 5 to it, and I want to assign that result or that sum to x. So instead of doing it like this, you can actually do a shortcut and basically do it like this, which is basically saying that x is equal to the current value of x plus 5. So when we run this, right, to start off, 10 plus 5 is actually 15. So now I'm actually gonna say x is now equal to the current value of x, which is 15, plus 5, and the answer is actually 20. So the same thing in subtraction. You're saying x is now equal to 10, and the current value of x, which is 10 minus 5, is actually 5. That's what you get here. Multiplication, same thing. So 10 times 5 is equal to 50, so that's the current value of x. And division, same exact thing. 10 divided by 3, so x divided by 3, which is going to be 3.33, and that's what the current value of x is set to. Same thing with floor division, modulus division, and exponential multiplication. So as you can see here, 10 divided by 2 gives you 5, and 10 modulus 2 is going to give you 0 because there's no remainder, and that's what the current value of x is set to. Finally, exponential, same thing. The current value of x is 10, so you set the new value of x to be the old value of x, which is 10 to the power of 2, which is 100, so now x is set to 100. Now logical operators are basically, there's three main ones, right? So let's say you have a Boolean, right? And I set it to be equal to true, and I have a second Boolean and I set it to be equal to false, right? And then for an AND statement to be true, both the values on the left side and the right side have to be true, right? If you say, so this is basically saying true and false. So this is not actually true. This is actually false, because for it to be true, both values have to be true. And as you can see here, when we run it, it's actually false, right? And so what about OR? Well, in the case of OR, only one has to be true for it to be true. So we have true and false. So true or false is actually true, because bool 1 is actually true. So as long as one value, at least one value, is true, then the answer is actually going to be true. And for not, it's basically the opposite, right? So let's say we use the example from and we actually do bool 1 and bool 2. So true and false. And like we said, that's actually false, right? Because they both have to be true for it to be true. And then we say opposite value is a variable that we're defining, and we actually assign the value not value. So we're basically saying this is what we get, which is actually false. And we're saying, well, not value or not false is actually what? It's actually true, because not false is true. And then finally, we're going to talk about membership operators. And this is pretty simple. So basically, let's say you want to check if a certain string is in another string. So I want to check if my name is actually inside the string. So when I run this, this is actually going to be true, because this is actually inside. It's right here. So this is going to be set to true, and I'm printing out true. Now let's say I actually want to check if something is not actually in there. So I want to check if this is not in there. So this is actually going to be false. Why? Because my name, Shihab, is actually inside here. So this, right, this statement is actually false, because this is actually inside this. Now let's say I change this to be like Shihab2. Well, this would actually be true, because Shihab2 is not in here. So this ends up being true, and that's what we print here. Okay guys, so that's the basic operators that I think everybody who's just starting out with Python programming should understand and know. There's obviously a few more operators, a few more in-depth ones that are not that important right now. So thanks for watching guys. Make sure to stay tuned and like and subscribe.